Good evening, Tansei Anin. Welcome to APTN National News. I'm Daryl Stranger. An Indigenous man's arrest by RCMP in BC was captured on video and is causing outrage on social media. According to Prince Rupert, RCMP, they were responding to the call of a man lying down in the doorway of a business. APTN's Lee Wilson has more.
An unidentified Indigenous man screams during an arrest by RCMP in Prince Rupert last night. Videos posted on social media appear to show a man punched and tased with knees placed on his back, while at least 6 officers attempted to place him under arrest. Commentators on the video question the amount of force used by police. According to Prince Rupert RCMP in a press release, a man is in custody after resisting arrest by police after they responded to a call of a man laying down in a doorway. An officer arrived at the scene and requested a second member as he recognized the man from previous interactions and he knew him to have a history of violence. The officers determined the man was intoxicated in public and unable to care for himself. He did not provide a safe place he could stay for the night, and therefore he was placed under arrest. When the officers went to secure the man in handcuffs for their safety and for the purposes of transporting him to the detachment, the man refused to comply with their lawful orders. They added officers use pain compliance with a taser in probe mode, which induces pain. He was offered medical help from BC Ambulance Service, but was aggressive with paramedics. According to an email response from the Prince Rupert RCMP on Monday, the man was confirmed to be Indigenous, but could not be identified due to the Privacy Act. He has not yet been charged. He was held in the Prince Rupert detachment overnight and released this morning. A report to Crown Counsel recommending a charge for obstruction or resisting arrest is expected. RCMP say they are aware of a video circulating online and are asking for anyone with video footage or a witness of the incident to provide a statement. Lee Wilson, APTN National News, Kitimat.
More than 200 people were on hand for a change of command ceremony for the Thunder Bay Police Service this afternoon, as acting and retiring Chief Dan Taddeo handed the reins over to Darcy Fleury. There are high hopes and high expectations that Fleury will be able to turn things around for the embattled police service. APTN's Leanne Sanders reports.
There was traditional pomp and ceremony to start the change of command celebrations, and there was traditional Indigenous drumming, singing, and prayer from an elder, all to formally welcome Darcy Fleury as Chief of the Thunder Bay Police Service. Originally from Manitoba, Fleury is a member of the Manitoba Métis Federation, where his father was a founding member. He's spent his career with the RCMP, most recently as a district commander in central Alberta. Since arriving in Thunder Bay, Fleury says he's been asked what made him apply for the top job at the troubled police service.
My answer is always the same. I was fortunate to find my passion at an early age and have been privileged to have lived it for the past 36 plus years. That passion is to serve, to do the best I can to help people feel safe, to let people know that at the worst of times, they can rely on me to help make things a little better.
Accusations of racism, incompetence, and shoddy investigations have dogged the Thunder Bay Police Service when it comes to the deaths of First Nations peoples. Anishinaabe Aski Nation Deputy Grand Chief Anna Betty Achni-Penescum spoke at the event. She says NAN officials met with the incoming chief a few weeks ago and presented him with a canoe and moccasins.
In order for us to move forward, that we must work together. And that is the message that I bring from the leadership and the citizens of Anishinaabe Aski Nation, is that we need to work together. We are very grateful for this opportunity that we are here to speak about the injustices that have taken place and that need an opportunity for that change that needs to happen.
Dan Taddeo, who's been at the helm of the service on an interim basis since previous Chief Sylvie Houth left, amid a storm of controversy, says the community has welcomed Fleury like a rock star.
After having had the opportunity to work with Darcy over the last 4 weeks, it wasn't so much a selection, it was more that we were damn lucky he applied. He has an endless passion for what is required to lead this police service, and there's no denying the crazy great vibe that exists both inside and outside of our police service.
Leanne Sanders, APTN National News, Winnipeg.
The 4 First Nations that make up the Musqueam community south of Edmonton are close to having their own mental health clinic, and officials are saying it is desperately needed. APTN's Chris Stewart has more.
Workers here in Samson Cree Nation are finishing up work on a new mental health clinic that opens in June. It will work with the mobile health clinic to provide additional treatment options for people needing mental health supports. Shay Yellowbird is a counselor for the Samson Cree Nation, where the new building is located.
The view I had, especially with COVID and everything shutting everything down, is that not only did we have the pandemic, but it also created I call it the mental health pandemic within the nation, because during that time everything had shut down, right, and programs and services were closed, which the community needed and nation members. So this is a step in the right direction.
Gail Lightning is the programming manager for Musqueam's Mobile Health. She says having a permanent location to provide supports is desperately needed.
Some people are living with social unwellness, mental unhealth, and having a place for them to debrief and to offer programs and services is very necessary.
The communities of Montana First Nation, Louisville Tribe, Ermineskin Cree Nation, and the Samson Cree Nation have suffered from suicides. The additional support from the new facility will offer help to those who need it.
Some of the social issues that we see are related to self-harm and stress, so we can help to decompress some people and provide them different services as per request. There's no one way to serve all the people. It's not a cookie cutter approach.
Marvin Yellowbird is the chair of Musqueam's Ambulance Authority. He says intergenerational trauma has contributed to the mental health issues here, and their treatment options will help those who have been hurt.
In terms of services, there'll be traditional healing, there'll be ceremonies, elders will be utilized, as well as professional therapists in various disciplines, such as suicide prevention counselors, sexual abuse counselors, and so on.
Shay Yellowbird says that young people are a big portion of people struggling right now.
I hear a lot from our youth, especially nation members that are going through losses in the community, dealing with a lot of mental health, and this is a big step into addressing those health needs.
Chris Stewart, APTN National News, Musqueam, Alberta.
Earlier this year, the Catholic Church issued a statement repudiating the doctrine of discovery. On Monday, the MacDonald Laurier Institute held a webinar to discuss exactly what this means. When he visited Canada last summer, Pope Francis was lobbied by a number of organizations to repudiate the controversial doctrine. In late March, the Vatican issued a statement of official repudiation. Lawyer Bruce McIver was one of the participants in Monday's webinar. He says without actual action, the repudiation has little meaning.
We need the Catholic Church and all churches to step up and say, we're doing something. We're doing something tangible. If the Vatican would have said, and this is what we expect politicians to do, we're going to set the example. We're going to get involved in land back. We're going to do something meaningful here. And we expect these colonizing nations now to do the same.
All right, we have to pause the news briefly here. We still have plenty more to come, including the story of an Indigenous dean at a Quebec college.
If we want to move forward in terms of building a stronger education system and incorporating those Indigenous ways of knowing, we really have to be present.
Welcome back to APTN National News. For the first time, a college in Quebec has appointed a Dean of Indigenous Education. Kim Martin, who is from Ganawage, works at John Abbott College, located about 20 minutes outside Montreal. She was appointed in the fall of 2022, but officially introduced during an announcement about a living classroom under development on campus. They'll be planting a First Peoples garden and micro-forest in collaboration with Indigenous knowledge holders, so students can learn about the importance of Indigenous plants. Martin's role involves supporting the nearly 100 Indigenous students at the college and helping improve Indigenous education for all.
If we want to move forward in terms of building a stronger education system and incorporating those Indigenous ways of knowing, we really have to be present. In many conferences that I go to with other Indigenous educators, there is a saying of nothing about us without us, and we really have to be a part of this process to make sure that it's done in an appropriate way.
The Spotify original podcast Stolen: Surviving St. Michael's won the prestigious Pulitzer and Peabody Awards last week. We spoke earlier with Connie Walker, who was from the Okonee First Nation in Saskatchewan and was the lead on this project, and veteran Saskatchewan journalist Betty Ann Adam from Fond du Lac, Saskatchewan, who was on the Gimlet media team that produced the award-winning podcast. Connie, Betty Ann, thank you both so much for taking some time to talk with us today, and congratulations as well. Connie, I'll start with you. I mean, a Pulitzer and a Peabody, like those are very prestigious awards. What do those honors mean to you?
I mean, it's really, it feels so surreal. It's kind of incredible. I know that, that's both are such prestigious awards, but I think also awards that I never even dared to dream about in some ways. So I'm absolutely thrilled. And I think our whole team is just also, really excited by the fact that this means that more people will get to hear our podcast and hear the voices and the stories of the survivors who bravely shared them with us.
And Betty Ann, I'll ask you the same question as well. What does it mean to you?
It's the same thing that Connie said, that it was just unbelievable. It doesn't feel like we exist in the same universe as awards like that. And it's just so thrilling to know that the survivors' voices are heard on a larger platform because of these amazing awards.
And Connie, I'll come back to you on this one. Can you tell us the backstory about the podcast? It started with your dad's story and his life at St. Michael's Residential School in Duck Lake, Saskatchewan. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, before I started on this podcast journey, I knew little to nothing about my dad's experience at St. Michael's. And this really came about because of a story that I heard from my brother Hal about his time there. And I think that, the revelation from my brother that my father had been abused at a residential school, answered some questions for me maybe that I had about him and our relationship, but it raised so many more. And it made me want to better understand what he went through at St. Michael's, what all survivors went through at that school, but also it made me want to search for some kind of accountability and to see if we could try to find the priest. I had so many questions about who this person was, what happened to them after St. Michael's, were they ever investigated by media or police or anyone, and could I find them? And so this really is, it started out as this personal story with questions about my dad, but as Betty Ann and the rest of the team can tell you, it became a much bigger story, and really what we were able to uncover in the course of our investigation was staggering in terms of just the scale of the abuse at this one school that has had ripple effects across generations.
Well, you touched on a point that I want to come back to that right here, Connie, is the story was close to your heart, and it shows just in that answer there. Has it helped you personally by sharing your dad's stories and the stories of his peers?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely, I think that it has helped, but, I'm not going to sugarcoat it. Like, this is a very difficult story. I think that My dad wasn't the only residential school survivor in my family. Like, all of his brothers and sisters went to residential school. Both sets of my grandparents went to residential school, but we didn't talk about this. This is something that I think has remained hidden in so many families for so long. And I think that, I understood, or I knew that my life had been impacted by this legacy of residential schools, but really not being able to connect the dots in a meaningful way and not being able to understand, is really difficult. And this was the purpose of the podcast, was to try to shine a light to kind of understand better some of the trauma that I experienced as an intergenerational survivor, and make sense of it. And also, I think that, what I've learned through my storytelling and journalism career is that when you're given space and agency and respect to tell your story, that it can be a healing experience. And one, it was a healing experience for me. And as even though it started from a place of darkness and pain and trauma, I think where we ended up was ultimately, this is a story about love and hope and the incredible strength, and not just my dad, but so many survivors and intergenerational survivors.
Mm-hmm. That's really well said, Connie. And Betty Ann, I'll come to you for this question. You're a 60 Scoop survivor, and your story was told in the documentary Birth of a Family. Why did you want to work on this project with Connie?
Well, first of all, I was just really excited to work with Connie, but of course, the residential school story is my family story too. My mother attended Holy Missions, Holy Angels mission in Fort Chip, and and her life was impacted by it, and I believe that the fact that all of her children were scooped and spread out to live our lives apart from each other all these years was a direct result of her residential school experience too. And I think that for most Indigenous people in Canada, we can trace some lineage to those schools and the effect that it's had on our families.
Well, Connie, Betty Ann, it's great to have two Indigenous journalists honored like this. Congratulations to the both of you, and thank you so much again for taking a few minutes out of your day to speak with us.
Thank you so much for having us.
Thank you.
And the new president for NAJA, the Native American Journalists Association, Graham L. Brewer, is extending his congratulations to both Connie Walker and Betty Ann Adam. Walker was also the keynote speaker at NAJA's 2022 conference in Phoenix, Arizona.
It's kind of incredible, right? Because there's not a lot of Native people who are getting recognized by, it's not just the Pulitzers, it's all sorts of awards that don't really pay attention to our communities, the work that we do about our own people. And so I think that there's a lot of people like Connie and Betty Ann out there doing this kind of work. And I hope that more of them start getting this kind of recognition.
All right, we have to step aside one final time. Our photo of the day and a look at tomorrow's weather across the country is next. Welcome back. It's time now for our photo of the day. From Wet'suwet'en territory near Kiawiget in northern British Columbia, Johnny Morris sent us this great shot of the setting sun. That is a wonderful shot there, Johnny. Thanks so much for that. We want to see your photos, so send them to share@aptn.ca, and your photo might just be our next photo of the day. All right, now let's take a look at tomorrow's weather forecast. Starting on the east coast at 12 degrees in St. John's and 17 in Fredericton. 5 degrees in Cartwright and 6 in Happy Valley Goose Bay. 10 degrees in Quebec City and 7 in Val-d'Or. 23 degrees in Toronto and 14 in Sault Ste. Marie. Some rain and 12 degrees in Wawa and rain and 16 in Sioux Lookout. 5 degrees in Churchill and 17 in Norway House. Clear and 18 in Barons River and sunny and 26 in Winnipeg. Sun and 28 in Regina and 32 degrees in North Battleford. 21 in Buffalo Narrows and 15 and some showers in Stony Rapids. As we head west at 22 in High Level and clear and 23 in Grand Prairie. Sunshine and 22 in Edmonton and sunshine and 26 in Calgary. 28 degrees in Campbell River and 27 and clear in Bellacoola. 15 degrees in Sandspit and 23 in Fort Nelson. Clear and 22 in Whitehorse, and Dawson's looking at 21. 23 in Norman Wells and 25 in Wrigley. 15 degrees in Colville Lake and 6 in Inuvik. 4 degrees in Cambridge Bay and a mix of sun and cloud, and 2 in Whale Cove. -3 in Igloolik and 1 degree in Iqaluit. Libraries inside of Manitoba prisons will have shelves full of books thanks to a volunteer-run book drive and bake sale taking place in Winnipeg. Sab Jonesa has more.
A book drive and bake sale in Winnipeg is helping inmates in Manitoba pass the time by reading.
It's not like Orange is the New Black or Shawshank Redemption. Like, these prisons have no libraries. They had no libraries there when we first started.
The drive is held by the Manitoba Library Association's Prison Libraries Committee. Kirsten Werman started the volunteer group after touring the Winnipeg Remand Center.
I think there were some really friendly corrections officers that were putting some paperbacks into a garbage bag and sending them up to the units, but that was about it.
Now the chair for the committee, she says demand for more books has kept the program going for over 10 years.
We started a book program at Remand where we were going in every single week, providing sort of a library service, finding out what folks needed and wanted, and bringing the books in. And then after that, basically, we were contacted by Women's Correctional Center, Men's Correctional Center, Milner Ridge. We've done some work with Manitoba Youth Center. So just sort of the word got out.
With a yearly budget of only $500 to work with, book donations are vital to the people who need them.
Anything that's Indigenous authors, writers, history, culture, we purchase those, we look for those. We can't always get those donated, so when we do see them donated, we will get them right into the prisons because they are just so valuable to those community members who are incarcerated.
Indigenous people are overrepresented in the prison system, and Werman says colonialism and systemic racism are ingrained in corrections.
That means that folks, our incarcerated community members, have a lot of intergenerational trauma and hurt that stem from that colonialism, and really it's important that they are provided and offered programming and resources that can help them heal from some of that intergenerational trauma, and that's not readily available.
You can drop off books at participating locations throughout the month of May. They will be holding a Pay What You Can sale of the books and baked goods on June 17th. Sav Jonesa, APTN National News, Winnipeg.
Now you can find more information about the drive and book drop-off locations on their Facebook page at facebook.com/mla.plc. A Vancouver man captured a stunning video of a juvenile bald eagle that looks like something out of National Geographic. Check out how close this eagle gets to the drone. The video was captured in Surrey, flying over a golf course. The curious bird was flying with the small drone for at least 30 seconds or so before heading in the other direction. It's not every day you get this clear of footage of a bald eagle. That's absolutely stunning, and how lucky are we to be able to witness that? And that's a fantastic way to end our show tonight. If you missed any of our stories, you can visit our website, aptnnews.ca. For all of us here, thank you so much for joining us. Miigwech, Kinanaskmatan, and have a great evening.